Okay, you guys, this is where the story really settles in, and it's not gossip anymore, it's reality. It's quiet, it's uncomfortable, and it's the kind of situation that makes you stop and shake your head, especially if you've lived enough life to recognize patterns when you see them. This past Christmas should have been a moment frozen in time, a once-in-a-lifetime memory. A brand new baby boy, only 7 weeks old. A mother holding her newborn during his very first holiday season. A new family, still fragile, still forming, still learning how to breathe together. Cardi B welcomed her baby boy with Stefon Diggs back in November. A little boy they lovingly nicknamed Brim. 7 weeks old. Barely out of that newborn phase where everything is soft. The hands, the cries, the moments that pass so fast you barely remember them once they're gone. For many mothers, especially mothers who have already raised children, that first Christmas with a newborn is sacred. It's quiet joy. It's reflection. It's hope. And yet, when Christmas came, something felt off. Cardi shared her holiday the way many mothers do, with pictures. Smiling, surrounded by her children. Each child had their own Christmas tree, decorated with care, with intention, with love. You could see the effort. You could see the mother in her. You could feel that she was trying to hold things together, trying to create warmth even if something was missing. And something was missing. Stefon Diggs was nowhere to be found. No family photo. No shared moment. No image of a new father beside his newborn son on his very first Christmas. And people noticed. They always do. Because when you put your life in the public eye, silence speaks louder than explanations. People started asking questions. Not cruel questions, honest ones. Where is he? Why isn't he there? Why isn't this family together on Christmas morning? Then Stefon posted. Not with Cardi. Not with the newborn. But in his own home. He shared photos with his other children. Holding one of his sons, smiling, proud. He captioned it, "One of my boys' first Christmas." Then another post, his daughter. Another smile. Another moment captured. And then, almost as an afterthought, he reposted Cardi's picture with their baby and wrote, "Miss y'all. Don't be squeezing him too tight. You making him soft." And that's when the internet turned cold. Because to many people, especially those who've lived long enough to understand relationships, sacrifice, and timing, it didn't feel comforting. It didn't feel united. It felt divided. Separate homes. Separate holidays. Separate lives. And Cardi got dragged for it. People called her foolish. People said she'd been left. People said she'd been fooled. People said the man didn't want her anymore. And on the surface, the optics were bad. There's no denying that. When a woman just gave birth 7 weeks ago and spends Christmas without the father of her child, people are going to talk. But the truth? The truth is messier than gossip. And heavier than judgment. Because now the real explanation has come out. And it's not romance or betrayal or abandonment. It's baby mama drama, the kind that doesn't resolve itself with a caption or a holiday post. According to Cardi's longtime friend Kim Barbie, the reason Cardi and Stefon didn't spend Christmas together had nothing to do with love fading. It had everything to do with boundaries, conflict, and choices made long before this baby was born. Stefon Diggs has children with multiple women. Not one, not two, several. And some of those children were born this very same year. And according to Kim Barbie, the other baby mothers made it clear. Their children would not be around Stefon unless they were physically present themselves. And Cardi didn't want her children, including her newborn, surrounded by tension, conflict, and competing energies. So she stepped back. She took the loss quietly. She stayed home with her kids. And Stefon went to be with his other children. Now, on paper, that sounds reasonable. A father choosing to be with all his kids. A mother protecting her peace. Adults doing what they think is best. But emotionally, it's heavy. Because no matter how you spin it, this was Cardi's newborn's first Christmas. And the family was not together. And for women, especially women who have raised children, who have sacrificed for families, who understand how fleeting those early moments are, that's not nothing. This isn't about headlines. This is about choices catching up. And this is only the beginning of the story. By the time you reach a certain age in life, you begin to understand that not every situation is loud. Some of the most painful realities unfold quietly behind closed doors during moments that were supposed to be joyful. This is one of those situations. What we're really looking at here isn't a celebrity scandal. It's a blended family collision. The kind that people who've lived long enough recognize immediately. The kind where there is no perfect answer, no clean solution, and no winner. Just people managing consequences. Kim Barbie tried to explain it plainly. She didn't sugarcoat it. She didn't dramatize it. She simply laid it out. Cardi has her children. Stefon has his children. And when other mothers say their kids can't be around unless they're present, then that's the situation everyone has to accept. And for anyone who has ever been part of a blended family, that statement hits hard. Because it's not about control, it's about trust. It's about boundaries. It's about unresolved feelings that never quite disappear when relationships end, but children remain. The reality is this. When multiple women share one man as the father of their children, emotions don't disappear just because time passes. Old wounds reopen. Jealousy simmers. Comparison creeps in. And no matter how mature everyone claims to be, tension follows. Cardi understood that. She understood that bringing her children, especially a 7-week-old newborn, into a space filled with unresolved emotions wasn't healthy. She understood that peace is sometimes more important than appearances. And she made a choice that many mothers, especially seasoned mothers, would recognize immediately. She protected her home. That doesn't mean it didn't hurt. That doesn't mean it wasn't lonely. That doesn't mean it didn't sting. Because let's be honest, there is something deeply unsettling about a mother spending Christmas with a newborn while the father is elsewhere because the family structure is too complicated to coexist under one roof. And this is where the discomfort really sets in. Stefon Diggs doesn't just have a few children from the past. He has several children with several women, and some of those children are newborns themselves. Multiple babies born within the same year. Lives overlapping. Families stacking on top of each other. That kind of situation doesn't just happen overnight. It's the result of repeated decisions made without long-term vision, without considering how complicated life becomes when children are involved. And while many people rush to judge Cardi, the truth is she didn't walk into this blind. She knew he had children. She knew the situation was complex. And she still chose to have a child with him. That's her choice. But knowing something intellectually doesn't prepare you emotionally for living it. Especially not during vulnerable moments, postpartum weeks, sleepless nights, hormonal shifts, and the emotional weight that comes with bringing a new life into the world. For women who've lived decades, raised families, endured marriages, survived divorces, and watched patterns repeat themselves through generations, this situation feels familiar. Not because of the celebrity names, but because of the dynamics. It's the story of a woman trying to create stability while navigating a man whose life is spread across multiple households. It's the story of children born into circumstances they didn't choose. It's the story of adults trying to make peace with chaos they helped create. And here's the part many people don't want to say out loud. No matter how good of a father someone claims to be, when children are born into fragmented systems, they feel it. Maybe not immediately, maybe not consciously, but over time it shows. Separate holidays, separate homes, separate traditions. And while Stefon deserves credit for showing up for his kids, because too many fathers don't, it doesn't erase the emotional cost of dividing yourself so thin that no family ever feels whole. Cardi didn't lose her dignity here. She didn't fail. She didn't look foolish. She made a decision rooted in self-preservation and maternal instinct. But that doesn't make the situation any less heavy, because a newborn's first Christmas should be simple. And this one wasn't. And when life gets this complicated this early, it raises a quiet concern. Not judgment, just concern about how much harder it gets as time goes on. There's a reason this situation unsettles so many people who've lived long enough to watch history repeat itself. When you've raised children, buried parents, survived marriages, and witnessed how choices echo across decades, you stop reacting emotionally and start observing patterns. And this pattern is an old one. Men creating multiple homes. Women trying to make peace with instability. Children growing up navigating divided worlds. This isn't new. What's new is how normalized it has become. In earlier generations, situations like this were treated with caution. Not condemnation, caution. Because people understood that children are not accessories. They are not proof of love. They are lifelong responsibilities that require structure, consistency, and presence. When multiple children are born within the same year to different women, that structure collapses before it even has a chance to form. No matter how much money is involved. No matter how famous the parents are. No matter how often someone shows up with a camera. Time teaches one unavoidable truth. Love divided too many ways becomes diluted. This is where the conversation shifts from gossip to concern. Because while Stefon Diggs is being praised by some for spending Christmas with his children, others see the deeper issue. the impossibility of being fully present everywhere at once. You cannot split yourself into 6 equal parts and expect each child to feel whole. Older generations understand this instinctively. They know that fatherhood isn't just about visits and photos. It's about rhythm. It's about routine. It's about knowing where you belong on Christmas morning without having to choose. And this is where Cardi's situation becomes especially heavy. She came into this after a marriage, after heartbreak, after public humiliation, after trying to rebuild herself emotionally. For anyone who has been divorced, especially later in life, the healing process is sacred. Rushing it invites chaos. There's an old saying many grandparents still live by. You heal yourself before you bring someone else into your life, because no one can fix wounds they didn't create. And yet here we are. This situation didn't happen in isolation. It happened in the middle of unresolved emotional baggage, hers and his. And while love may have been present, discernment was lacking. That doesn't make Cardi weak. It makes her human. But for those watching from a generational lens, it raises quiet red flags. Not out of judgment, but out of experience. There's also something deeply unsettling about how society excuses men in these situations while scrutinizing women. When women have multiple children, the conversation turns moral. When men do it, it becomes normalized, even celebrated. But biology doesn't lie. Women carry the physical and emotional burden of childbirth. Women endure postpartum recovery. Women wake up through the night. Women absorb the emotional labor. Men can move freely between homes while women anchor households. That imbalance has consequences. Children born into overlapping timelines don't understand explanations. They understand presence, and absence, and patterns. And while Stefon may love all his children, love alone doesn't erase fragmentation. What older people see here isn't scandal, it's erosion, the slow wearing down of stability, the quiet confusion that grows when families don't have clear foundations. This is why so many people feel uncomfortable defending this situation fully. Not because they hate anyone involved, but because they've seen where this road leads. Separate Christmases become separate birthdays. Separate birthdays become separate graduations. Separate homes become emotional distance. And the children carry that into adulthood. This isn't about canceling anyone. It's about acknowledging reality. Cardi is trying to protect her peace. Stefon is trying to show up. But the structure itself is flawed. And flawed foundations crack under pressure, especially as time goes on. Older generations don't see this as entertainment. They see it as a lesson written in real time. By the time you reach the later chapters of life, you understand something younger generations are still learning. Compassion does not require approval. You can care about people and still acknowledge that their choices created unnecessary hardship. You can wish someone well and still recognize that the road they're on is steep because of decisions already made. That's exactly where this situation lands. Stefon Diggs is not a villain for spending Christmas with his children. In fact, many people would argue that he did what a father should do. Too many men disappear. Too many men choose convenience over responsibility. And in that sense, showing up matters. But showing up is not the same as building. When fatherhood is spread across multiple households, presence becomes fragmented. Even with the best intentions, no man can fully inhabit 6 different family structures without something, or someone feeling neglected. That's not a moral judgment. It's a practical reality. Older generations understand this because they've lived it, watched it, and in many cases survived it. What makes this situation especially heavy is the timing. A newborn baby, 7 weeks old, a mother still healing physically and emotionally, a first Christmas that will never come again. These are moments that don't reset. Cardi didn't create this mess alone, but she is living with its weight. She chose peace over optics, stability over spectacle. She stayed home with her children, protecting them from adult tension they don't need to absorb. That choice deserves understanding, not ridicule. At the same time, it's fair to acknowledge that this situation didn't appear out of thin air. It was built decision by decision. And when people say, "This is her life," they're right, but children inherit the lives we build around them. That's the part older people can't ignore. Children don't choose complexity. Adults do. There's also an uncomfortable truth many avoid saying out loud. Normalization doesn't equal health. Just because something happens often doesn't mean it's good. Just because society shrugs doesn't mean the consequences disappear. Multiple newborns in the same year across different homes isn't a badge of honor. It's a warning sign of imbalance, emotional, relational, and moral. Not in a religious sense, but in a human one. And yet, despite all of this, compassion still belongs here. Cardi deserves space to heal. Stefon's children deserve a present father. And the newborn deserves stability above all else. This story isn't about punishment or praise. It's about seeing clearly. For those who've lived long enough to understand cycles, this feels like watching history repeat itself. Not dramatically, but quietly. And quiet consequences are often the hardest to undo. At the end of the day, no one outside this situation can fix it. No amount of commentary changes reality. All that remains is the hope that wisdom arrives before resentment does. That accountability grows alongside affection. That children feel chosen, not divided. This isn't scandal. This is life, complicated, imperfect, and shaped by choices that don't disappear just because time moves on. And for those watching from a place of experience, the lesson is clear. Love requires structure, healing requires patience, and children deserve more than good intentions. That's the truth.